just finishing up my review on Mortal Kombat. Alrighty.
Get over here! Ah! Your soul is mine. Ah!
Fatality. Ugh. Mortal Kombat 2021 is directed by Simon Marquardt, from a story by Greg Russo and Dave Callahan, and also story by Oren Uzel, Greg Russo, and it stars Louis Tan, Jessica McNair, Josh Larson, Tabanobi Ansano, Makar Brooks, Ludi Lin, Chin Han, Joe Talisman, and Hiroki Sanda. And it is a 2020 reboot of the Mortal Kombat mythology. This movie, let me tell you, I was looking forward to this movie. This movie, I saw the trailer 1,000 times. That's how much I loved that trailer. You know, and how I loved how integrated the music were. And you hear like, woo! I was like, oh my god, I have to watch this movie now. Like, I wanted to watch it so bad. If they put it on right now, I would watch it. That's how much I literally was so excited. I stayed up till midnight to watch it, okay? And then as soon as I watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, I was like, I guess I'll wait till tomorrow. And the first 10 minutes, I was kind of disappointed that at the beginning, because I was expecting the Mortal Kombat, do 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 do. But it didn't. But I was like, look, you know, I understood. Like, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't play at the beginning of the movie, even though I heard Techno Syndrome's in this movie. I was so excited, but I understood. I was like, you know what? That's fine. You know, this try to be a more serious take on it. You know, it's not going to be like techno-y and stuff. That's fine. That's fine. You know what? It's smarter probably that you did that anyway. So then, of course, I was like, all right, look, I'm going to watch this movie, and I'm just going to enjoy it. And the first 10 minutes of this movie are amazing. It's like Dark Knight level good, okay? I was like, oh, yeah, spoiler, if you've not seen the movie, if you've never heard of the Mortal Kombat Legacy, if you've never heard of that. The Mortal Kombat Legacy of the Legends is, you know, of course, Scorpio and Sub-Zero, their rival enemies, and Sub-Zero murders his family. That's mythology, okay? In the video games it's set up. Well, it does it in the movie, and it flawlessly, I must say. Or flawless victory, you know, pun intended. Yeah, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that so much. And you know what? And I honestly was so excited, okay? And what I love about this movie, okay, I will say, I'm going to tell you what I like and dislike and what my verdict is. I will say, this movie, though, you know, the movie essentially is about, of course, a guy named Cole Young who's chosen to go to a tournament where there are all these people that have been chosen by this birthmark, and they have to go to this tournament because there's a tournament that's the fate of the world is on its hands, because the big, you know, the champions and Emperor Gore, the Emperor is going to show up and, you know, wipe out the universe unless this tournament is, because he's won 9 of them, so he has to win a 10th one. I was thinking, this was the same exact plot of the first movie, only the first movie did it much better. You know, the 95 movie did it much better. And it really, this movie right here made me appreciate the 95 movie a lot more than I did. Like, I did a watch-a-thon. I watched the Mortal 95 version, and I just felt like, I embraced it. You know, I was like, oh, I love that movie so much. And then you get Armageddon. Is it an Armageddon or Annihilation? It's Annihilation. My bad. It feels like that movie should be an Armageddon. But still, that movie's terrible. I watched it with my mother, and my mother said, it feels like a Power Rangers movie, which I covered that in my review, so. But yeah, yeah, that movie is shit. But still, I mean, the movie's it's fun. It's a fun movie, you know, and, I really enjoyed, you know, the 1995 one, and I was looking forward to this movie, and I started watching it. First 10 minutes of the movie are phenomenal. I was like, oh yes, this is the Mortal Kombat movie I've been waiting for. And then the first 10 minutes end, and then you're just like, then we get this character called Cole Young, and you're just like, I don't really care about this character. And then, like, you know, they get through, like, oh, he's the guy who gets his ass kicked for a living. And I'm, like, in fights. And I'm just like, well, that's a terrible way to set up your protagonist. And then, of course, you know, Sub-Zero. And then, of course, you have this character played by Makar Brooks who plays Jax. And, you know, if you know the Mortal Kombat mythology, you know who Jax is. And I was like, oh, my God, Jax is here. And he's actually a likable character until he gets his arms froze off. Then he becomes pretty much the cliche character of, oh, I lost my arms, so now I have to regain my strength and stuff. You know, it's like, oh, I was a mama monster because I have no hands. And, oh, I'm weak. And also, you know, and I kind of felt like, all right, I don't know, you know, Cole Young, apparently, I found out that he's not a character. It was actually, in fact, the screenwriter, Greg Russo, said that there was a studio mandate to introduce a character, Cole Young, even though it's not in the games or nothing. So he tried his best to connect him to the Mortal Kombat mythology. And so that's why Cole Young is there, and that's why a lot of people have said Cole Young is the less, not a good character. He's the least favorite character, you know. It should have been focused on Scorpio or Johnny Cage, but Johnny Cage is not even in the movie. There's a tease for him at the end to set up a sequel if we get one. And Scorpio is only in 2 scenes in the movie, and so you're just like, and Sub-Zero is a henchman, basically, because even though their screenwriters and director have said he is the main villain of the movie, well, yeah, he has more scenes than Shang Tsung, but he's not the main villain, of course. And I will say, Liu Kang, who had a big prominent role, an important role in the original 1995 movie, does not have a prominent role in this movie. There's some similar stuff happens in this movie, like his brother dying, but that's pretty much it with that character. That's the only really character development. His brother dies, and he does Kung Fu, but not well as his brother. Or is it martial arts or Kung Fu? I'm just going to say Kung Fu, but feel free to correct me. But I will say what I liked about this movie, okay? First 10 minutes are phenomenal, okay? It feels like the first 10 minutes of the movie is like they all high-fived each other, the writers, screenwriters, and director, like, yeah, we did a really good job. You know, we really did a really good job with that first 10 minutes. You know what? Smooth sailing hit then on. You know what? Just smooth sailing, you know? And then it just became mediocre after that. It become like, it reminded me somewhat of Dragon Ball Evolution with a little bit of like, what's another movie? There's another movie I was thinking of the other day. Maybe, I was going to say Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014 a little bit. I was just thinking like, oh, you know, there's certain things that I was thinking like, all right, there's certain themes in this movie. Also, you know what? The 2017 Power Rangers movie. That's what I was thinking of. 2017 Power Rangers movie. I was like, it feels like there's this big threat, and then the big threat's not really a threat, and then these characters kind of just became who they are, and it's just like, you know, it doesn't really feel like there's much there. Like, I will say this, okay? What I liked about the movie is, like, Scorpio, what the 2 scenes he was in, they were perfect. If they would have made a whole feature about Scorpio, then that would have been so much better. Like this, if he would have been just in the whole movie, it would have been a fantastic movie, I think. Sub-Zero, if he would have been given more scenes, which he gets kind of in more scenes than Shang Tsung, but he really is not. It feels like just a henchman. He just sits there and does nothing. Like after he does all of his cool stuff, then he just sits there for like an hour and just doesn't do nothing. And you're just like, he's Sub-Zero, you know? And like there's one scene where this one guy is killing this one guy, and then he's going over about to go to Sub-Zero. I'm like, he's about to go to Shang Tsung, and I'm like, Sub-Zero better jump out. If I was Sub-Zero, I'd be jumping down and being like, you know, just shoot ice at him and kill him. You know, I will say, though, Joe Talisman as Sub-Zero is fantastic. His character was probably the best character of the movie. Has the most character development next to, of course, I think, Kano and Scorpio. You know, Raiden just sits there. Raiden is basically a useless character. He's basically Yoda in the prequels. Or Yoda even in Empire. I would say Yoda in Empire more in the prequels, because he actually did have some stuff in the prequels, especially Revenge of the Sith. But, like, he really did, in Attack of the Clone, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to retract my statement. He's Yoda in the original trilogy. He's there for exposition, and he's like, oh, don't do this, and I have my cane, and I'm just thinking, he's basically Gandalf from, like, the Hobbit movies, or Gandalf from Lord of the, you know, it's just like, he has a magic cane, that's it, really, I mean, and that's it, really. And he doesn't really do nothing. Like, there's like a hole when they're getting attacked. He doesn't really do nothing either. I'm just thinking, this dude's watching and not doing nothing. Like, at least the other rating, like, he kind of, like, when his warriors started to attack, like, Highlander just went shh and, like, put Sub-Zero and Scorpio in their places, This one just basically is like, don't do this. And then all of a sudden he puts his staff there, and I'm just thinking, you could easily destroy those fighters. At least the neo-Nazi Raiden from Annihilation, he was kind of a nice guy. Like he kind of like did some stuff. This one just didn't do nothing. Other than took a baby to another place and basically put a staff down, and that's it, really. I was thinking, really, that's Raiden? Also, I think Sonya is not that great of a character, in this movie. In the 1995 movie, she was a badass that you just like, she's blowing people away with a shotgun, In this one, she's just like, who are you? Oh, I'm not chosen. And then basically, there's a fight scene where she gets whooped. And then this one stabs her, and then she looks at me and goes, you're meaningless. And I'm just thinking, this woman basically summarized her character arc. You're nothing. I mean, like, that woman became my favorite character. I think, is it Katana? Is that her name? Katana? I want to say that's her name. Katana. She was a better character. Like, and all she does is, like she had just a giant CGI mouth, and I thought that was a better character, and there's so many things. There's so many characters in this movie that are not even that. There's one guy, I think his name's Cabal, where it just looks like Aquaman, the villain in Aquaman, what's it called? Black Manta. He looks just like that, only it's like a cheaper made version. And but I understand that's from the video games. My sister told me that is actually from the later video games, so that's actually an important character from later video games, which, I mean, that's cool. Also, Weasel's in it. Is his name Weasel? I want to say his name is Weasel. No, Reptile. My bad. I don't know where I'm getting Weasel from. I've been watching too many Suicide Squad trailers. So I got Weasel stuck in my head. But no, Reptile. Yeah, Reptile's in this movie. And in the original movie, he basically, is like a CG. It's kind of the same thing, only this one he looks much better with the CG technology. But, in the other one, there was a cool fight scene. This one was just him versus Kano, which I will say, Kano is the best character of this movie. He's the funniest character of this movie. He's next to Sub-Zero, probably the two best characters in the movie. He literally will make you laugh. Any scene he's in, it's just hilarious. And he's just like, oh, there's even a joke there, like, oh, I can't believe they put that joke in this movie. Like, oh, like, I'm just like, oh yeah, I love Josh Larson as Kano. He was amazing. Like, I honestly hope he shows up in a sequel, which I'm suspect he did. Some people say, oh, he might have died, but I'm like, if you know the video games, you know what that means. Like, he's not dead. He just got to get a new faceplant, But, yeah, there are some moments, like the fight scenes are pretty good. That how many there are, they're not that many. And there are some things that I thought were kind of stupid, but I'm going to say this, okay? The fight scene between Sub-Zero and Scorpio is amazing. I will say that. I will say the fight scene between Goro and Louis Tan's character, Cole Young, it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. Like, I honestly thought the fight scene between Jax and the guy with the hammer, the giant hammer, I thought that scene was a much better scene than the one with Goro. Goro honestly looked like it reminded me of the movie Warcraft. His CGI looked like that. And I was thinking, I was not impressed. I just felt like there were certain moments that are just not that great. And also, that Sub-Zero's great character. Okay, Sub-Zero's great. I like there's a Johnny Cage Easter egg at the end, and I like that even though I think that I don't like the new Techno Syndrome theme, I like how at the end it had the credits. I love the credits scene. And I also liked when he sucks out, is it Kung Lo's soul? It's Kung Lo's soul. I was going to say, yeah, so when he sucks out his soul, I thought that was great. And I also thought, when Scorpio, which is in the trailer if you haven't seen it, when he rips off of Jack's arms, I thought that was great. And I love like when he took the ice and he just brings it out to the ground, like, oh, that's so great. You know, and I really thought that was great. And, you know, those are the things I really appreciated about the movie. You know, and Kano's hilarious, so I love Kano. He's hilarious. Especially there's a scene about egg rolls. He gets all upset about the egg roll. That's pretty funny, too. And, yeah, but other than that, you know, that's what I appreciate about the movie. There are some things I like about it, but then, like Sub-Zero, okay, basically looks like he looks the same in the flashback, but then when he has like why did his eyes turn white, like dark light blue white, and why is he calls himself Sub-Zero now? Never explained that. Also, there's a scene where like okay at the beginning of the movie after Sub-Zero, which is by Han, he kills Scorpio. And, like, you know, his family's dead, okay? Like, his family's dead, but then there's a baby left over that Raiden takes at the end. And I'm just wondering, what happened to the baby? And they never explain it. It just never does. But, like, someone had to explain to me what happened to the baby. Like, oh, it's just, I guess it just had a kid who had Cole Young. I mean, I'm just saying, they should at least explain that, because they never explained nothing. You know, and I'm just like, okay, that was meaningless. The baby thing was meaningless. But I was like, okay. I guess it furthers the plot, I guess. And then there's like a scene where, like, you know, there's even like a scene, Goro, basically the meaningless, they're just fighting in a guy's backyard, basically. And Goro, he tries to get in the shed, and it's kind of stupid. It really is. Look at Goro fight scene. I'm just thinking, they had Goro, and they did this with Goro. At least the Goro fight scenes in the original 1995 movie were much better. And Goro looked terrible, the CGI. And I was just thinking, this is 2021, and this is the CGI we get for Goro? Really? I would have rather them do the animatronic thing again. At least that one looked better. You know? I mean, seriously, come on. And then also, Reptile looks like, even though the CGI looks better, it was just a meaningless character the further the plot, you know? Especially with Cabal was also meaningless as well. And, you know, like, Kano turning to Evo was like a quick thing that was like, I guess, but really, you know, Shang Tsung doesn't even really have much character development. Like, he had more character development in the 95 movie than he does in this movie. He just feels like, okay, it's like, he kind of feels like Magneto in the first X-Men movie. He just says a bunch of talking and stuff and does one thing, but mostly it's just henchmen do all his bidding for him, and then eventually he has one scene where he does something, and the rest of it's just him talking. And I'm just like, at least in the 95 movie, he had a purpose. This one, he has no purpose other than, oh, I gotta serve my master, and oh, this and that, and oh, no matter how many of my people you put in the ground, and then he just takes them all into their bodies, and I guess he's gonna Frankenstein them to bring them back to life. You know, and it just doesn't really feel like much of a good character. I mean, Sonya doesn't feel... It feels like a lot of the characters are underwritten because they're waiting to do something amazing with them in the sequel. And I'm like, shouldn't you try to earn the sequel first before you try to set stuff up for the sequel? I mean, seriously, it's like, it feels like this movie's so dependent on them setting up a sequel. It's like, look, I know this movie's garbage, but if you just wait, we're gonna get a good sequel. Trust me. And I'm like, if nobody goes and sees this movie and says this movie's garbage, you're not going to get a sequel. So you need to earn the sequel first, bro. You know, I mean, look, Sub-Zero and Scorpio are the only two, and they oversold the movie. They showed Sub-Zero in the trailer. Everything in the trailer pretty much is the movie, okay? Like, if you watch the first trailer, you've seen the movie. Like, that's everything in the movie, okay? Even the fatalities are all in the trailer. And I'm just thinking, this is kind of stupid. You know, I'm thinking, like, they ruined the movie in the trailer, and then basically Scorpio scenes are all in the trailer, too. And it's just like, you really should appreciate, this movie should be, like, better to appreciate the mythology it has, rather than just like, eh. Like, it just feels like they tried the first 10 minutes, and then they tried again when the Scorpio versus Sub-Zero fight scene. And also, can we just talk about Cole Young, how he has, like, this, like, it almost feels like that scene in X-Men First Class, where Darwin just has, like, the gills on him. Like, he's like, I adapt to survive. And he holds gills and everybody's hitting him with, like, chairs and stuff. Cole's, like, body armor, because apparently in the movie, they characters, like, basically their abilities have to come to them. You know, and so his ability is, like, an armor-plated, you know, like, I guess, skin suit. And it just reminded me of that scene in X-Men First Class, and I'm just thinking, this looks stupid. This almost feels like they were trying to sell this on an action figure at McDonald's. Like, that's how ridiculous it looks. And, you know, it just feels like they don't spend much time in, like, the Nether Realm or the other world. Or it kind of really irked me, you know? I was like, you know, this movie should be more faithful. And Johnny Cage wasn't even in the movie. But I will say, Kano kind of made up for Johnny Cage, so I'll give it that. But you know what? It just feels like this movie should be better. You know, it should be better comic. I just did not care for this movie, you know? And all in all, I think the 95 movie's still better. If I had to give this grade anything, I'm going to give it a C+. Thank you all so much. I'm going to have a review out soon for Falcon and Winter Soldier series. I just finished it. And I'm going to try to have that out soon, okay? Thank you all so much for watching. And if you like it, just give this video a thumbs up. That's all I ask. And just, you know, fall down the rabbit hole for more. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Thank you.